Hi there folks, welcome to Dunsy's Guitar World. Now, this one could take a while, so strap yourselves in. Nice cup of tea. Now this video came about because I was searching through some old bootleg CDs the other day, and I've got an awful lot of bootleg CDs, and I came across this one. Schenker versus Chapman. Now what this is, it's versions of UFO songs played by Michael Schenker and played by Paul Chapman. And I'm a huge Paul Chapman fan, so I thought it'd make an interesting series to look at the work of the Welshman Paul Chapman, a great player. Now I'm a huge UFO fan, I absolutely love UFO. They were one of my biggest influences when I first started playing, when I was writing songs in my first band. So Michael Schenker left the band in 1978, the 29th of August 1978 was his last gig. Now to be honest, I probably didn't start listening to rock music till about 1979, so by the time I got into it, Michael had already left UFO. So to me, UFO was always Paul Chapman, certainly to begin with. I mean, I'm a huge Michael Schenker fan, but when I first started getting into the band, it was Paul that was playing guitar. So let's look at Paul's musical career, the bands he was in, and up to the UFO days. So Paul was born 1954 in Cardiff in Wales. Beautiful place, Wales. So the first thing that Paul did of note, he replaced the legendary Gary Moore in a band called Skid Row. Now it wasn't the Youth Gone Wild Skid Row, it wasn't Sebastian Bach and friends. It was just a three-piece band that Paul joined. That was 1971 to 1972. Now, I don't think they recorded anything, I've never found anything that featured Paul Chapman on guitar. So his next band, according to everything I've read, is called Kimla Taz. I don't know what that means, but that's what they were called. Didn't find any recordings of them either. And that's 1972 to 1974. So after that, he forms or joins a band called Lone Star. So Lone Star had two albums out. The first one came out in 1976, just called Lone Star. The second one was called Firing on All Six. That came out a year later in 1977. Now these are really good albums, I have to say. Now the band for the first album was Kenny Driscoll on vocals, Tony Smith, guitars, Paul Chapman, guitars, Rick Worsnop, keyboards, Peter Hurley, bass, Dixie Lee on drums, and it's produced by Roy Thomas Baker, who produced Queen and the Cars. Great sounding album, I have to say. If I was to pick two songs off this album to recommend to you, it would definitely be the version they did of She Said by the Beatles, which is a fantastic arrangement of the tune. Really good guitars, great song. And the other one would be Flying in the Real, which is a real sort of, a real up-tempo rocker. Again, great guitar work on that. So the second album, as I said, is called Firing on All Six. This is a really good album. This is an interesting story behind this. My friend Deck, his dad was one of these cool dads. You know how when you're a teenager, dads are just terminally uncool. Well, his dad was quite cool because he had a record collection that we really liked, and we weren't allowed to touch it. He would say, if I'm out, don't touch my record player, because he had a really expensive turntable. So of course the first thing we did when he was out was to immediately get his records and start playing them. And he had this album, and we used to love the song The Bells of Berlin. It's a great song, killer song, which is about Berlin, about the Berlin Wall, stuff like that. Great tune, really good guitar, excellent harmony guitars. Another song I would recommend from this is All of Us to All of You, the last song in side 2, which I'll play a bit of guitar in a minute, but it's quite interesting. So all in all, Lone Star, two albums, both really good. They didn't really take off for some reason. I think I read a few things that they never got to America, and they thought it'd be quite a big band in America. But there's one thing about these albums, is the cheesy synth sounds. I guess it was of its time, the mid to late 70s, that's where synths were going, but there's some awful synthesizer lead lines on this. Very well played, I'm sure, but they haven't aged well. But Paul's playing on these albums is really good. It's difficult to tell, which guitar he's playing and which guitar Tony Smith's playing. But in the description, I'll put a link to a BBC concert that they did. It was called Sight and Sound in Concert. They would film a gig and they would broadcast it on the BBC on a Saturday evening between 5 and 6 maybe, or between 6 and 7. But they would do that, and so you could watch it on your TV and listen on your radio to get a better signal, because, you know, this is the 70s. TV was probably still in black and white most of the time. We didn't get a colour TV till 1978. The deprivation. So if we listen to All of Us, to All of You, the last song on side 2 of Firing on All 6, let's listen to the guitar riff. So I'll play that for you. Basically around an A pedal tone. And if you listen to the first song on No Place to Run, the first album Paul did with UFO, let's listen to Letting Go. Quite similar. So I'll play that riff on the guitar as well. So there's a definite similarity there between those two riffs, which is great. Maybe Paul was just practising the stuff he was going to be doing with UFO on No Place to Run later on. So that's the two Lone Star albums. Good albums, definitely worth checking out. They're on Spotify, you can listen free. I think they're being reissued on CD and stuff as well, so you can purchase them as well. Now, as well as being in Lone Star, Paul was also playing live with UFO at different periods. He first joined in April 1974, just to add additional guitars live, I think it would be, to bolster up the sound. This is before they had a keyboard player. There was still just a 4-piece for Danny Perinel. Is that how you pronounce his name? I don't know. Before he joined the band, so they were just a 4-piece, and they got Paul in sort of 74, 75 to play some guitar on the live shows. So I do have a ton of UFO bootlegs. And I've got some here which make quite interesting listening. So this one's from the Marquee in London from June 1974. So this is Michael on guitar and Paul on guitar as well. It's a song called Built for Comfort, which is an old blues cover. So you can definitely hear two lead guitars there. Almost harmony at the end of that verse here. So that's Michael and Paul playing together, and it sounds really good. They sounded really good together actually. It would have been great to see them in later days playing in the same lineup of UFO. Now what's interesting as well is they were doing Rock Bottom back then. That was already out in Phenomenon, and that became Michael's sort of solo spot for UFO gigs. He would do his extended solo in Rock Bottom. Became known for doing that. But in this version, again from the Marquee, you can hear Michael doing his solo, and you can definitely pick out the bits that he would do later on as well in the live recorded versions on Strangers in the Night. But you can hear Paul does a solo on it as well, so he wasn't just in to play rhythm guitar, he was soloing away as well. So this is Rock Bottom from the Marquee. You can tell that's Michael. You hear the rhythm guitar in the background there as well. can really hear the difference in the styles. Michael was doing his, as I say, he's doing the solo that he became famous for. You can hear the melodies doing there, and then Paul's totally different, and he's using a wah wah like Michael never did. He's really sort of going wow wow wow. That's a technical term. Wow wow wow. He's really hammering the wah wah when he's playing. Really two distinctive styles. Sounds great together. I say, it would have been fantastic to see the guys appearing on stage. I've never heard of them appearing on stage at the same time. So Paul played guitar with them until January 1975, and he left then. I'm not entirely sure why he left. There's never been any particular reasons given for it. Maybe he was just getting too busy. And then Paul went on to work with Lone Star. But then he's back in UFO in 1977 to fill in for Michael. I think Michael had went absent in the States, or after they'd finished their UK tour, they were going to America in 1977. So Paul was asked to go to the States and fill in for Michael because he wasn't there. So the earliest gig he did was July the 7th, 1977, which was in, according to my extensive notes here, Ginnings, Schaumburg, Illinois, United States of America. And he stayed with the band until the 19th of August. So he toured with the band for about 5 weeks all over the USA, filling in for Michael. Now one gig, which was on, again, look at my notes here, the 13th of August. I found this in the UFO tour dates, so let's have a look at the lineup on this gig. So this is the 13th of August 1977, and it's at Soldier Field, Chicago, Illinois. Look at the lineup: Peter Frampton, Bob Seger, Rick Derringer, and UFO. What a day that would have been. Let's try and find some pictures. So here's Frampton. I'm going to see Peter Frampton this year, his farewell tour. Can't wait. So this Frampton live on stage at Soldier Field. And now, interestingly, he seems to be using a Les Paul that's only got two pickups. Not his famous 3 pickup model. Anyway, we're here to talk about Paul Chapman, not the bold Peter Frampton. So on Paul's Facebook page, I'm not sure who runs it. Obviously a fan, but I don't think Paul does. But he certainly comments on posts. So if we look at Paul's Facebook page, he's got a whole folder full of pictures from Soldier Field. Thanks to Jim Barnes, who took these photographs. So let's look at some. I mean, I don't want to steal photographs straight from Paul's page. I don't want to download it and just post them in my video. Quite disrespectful. So let's just look at some of the pictures on his page. Required parking jam. God, look at all the cars, eh? It's like Detroit, the Motor City. Jeez, oh, what a size of stadium, eh? That's a big audience. I've never played to an audience that big. There's a band on stage. Paul Raymond, keyboards there, Pete Way, Phil Mogg, Paul Chapman, out of picture, Andy Parker. Look at how many people, man, that's crazy. Paul holding his guitar up to the guitar gods. Black Les Paul custom there by the looks of it. Pete in his stripy trousers. The late Paul Raymond. And again, playing a flying V, I think. Look at that, now that's a cool photograph. Paul in his flying V. Look at those marshals behind Pete as well, eh? That must have been kicking that out. Although one of them isn't plugged in. Paul and Pete. Cool photograph that, eh? Oh, look at that. Pete's fallen over. Paul again with his black Les Paul custom. So that must have been some gig to be at and to play. Imagine walking out in front of that many people, eh? So Paul was with the band until the 19th of August, and he flew back to the UK. Now, that I noticed an interview with him, a couple of quotes. He said that he flew home to play at the Reading Festival with Lone Star, which was on the 26th of August 1977. So he must have had a week when he came back to get ready for the Reading Festival. Now there's actually a bootleg. I think it was released on the UFO bootleg series. I don't know if it's official or not, but it's from the Agora, Cleveland, Ohio, from the 11th of July 1977. That has Paul playing on it, and it's perfect radio quality. I don't want to post it here, I don't want to get done for copyright, God forbid. So I would have a look for that if you can. I mean, you find it online, no problem, but it's interesting to hear Paul playing in really good quality on radio broadcast quality, and you can hear how he played the songs that Michael had played on. So Paul's back with Lone Star and Michael's back with UFO, touring away until the 29th of August 1978, and Michael calls it a day. He says, "I'm out of here, guys." I don't know if he actually said that, but he didn't appear with the band again. Now, in an interview with Paul, he says, at the end of October 1978, I got a call from Pete Way, and he said, "Schenker has gone weird again. Would you consider joining us full time and moving to Los Angeles?" And I said, "I'll be there yesterday." I would say exactly the same, to be honest. And that was that as far as Lone Star was concerned. So he called it a day with Lone Star and went to the States to join UFO. Who wouldn't do that? So that's the end of 1978. Paul's away to join UFO in America. And they start recording their next album, the first one with Paul, which ends up being called No Place to Run. And the album's produced by none other than Sir George Martin. I don't think he was Sir George Martin back then, but he was rock royalty. He'd been the producer of the Beatles, for God's sake. So he produces the album. Crazy stuff. So this album, UFO, No Place to Run. Now this is a great album. There's some fantastic tunes on this. Letting Go, Fire Burns Tonight, Mystery Train, cover of an old blues tune made famous by Elvis Presley, Gone in the Night, Young Blood, No Place to Run, Take It or Leave It, Money Money, Any Day. This is recorded at Air Studios in Montserrat and Air Studios in London. I would guess that Montserrat was much more glamorous, although I do like London. I'm not knocking London here, but I don't think there's as many beaches in London. Just a great album. First one with Paul. Interestingly, that's a tour programme from the UK leg of the No Place to Run tour. December 1979. They played Wednesday the 16th of December 1979. They played the Odeon in Edinburgh. Paul with his non-reverse Firebird, so you can straighten up, non-reverse Firebird with a replaced bridge pickup. Don't know if that's a DiMarzio Super Distortion, perhaps. Autographed. This is indeed an autographed UFO tour programme. You don't see that every day, folks. And it says here, drink Pernod. I'm not a big fan of Pernod, I must admit. And who was the support band on that tour? None other than Girl. With Phil Collen, who went on to join Def Leppard, and Phil Lewis, who went on to play with Bernie Tormey and L.A. Guns. It's a small world, Small world. So that's the first album with Paul Chapman, No Place to Run, great album. The next album is The Wild, The Willing and The Innocent. Now I think this is my favourite Paul Chapman era UFO album. This is a great, really good album. Some fantastic songs. In fact, all fantastic songs. Great guitar playing, great guitar riffs as well. Produced by UFO, they produced it themselves. So what's on this? Chains, Chains, Long Gone, the title track, The Wild, the Willing and the Innocent, It's Killing Me, side 2, Making Moves, that's a killer riff that. Lonely Heart, which has got a saxophone solo. I'm not a big saxophone fan. Couldn't Get It Right. And the last song is called Professional Violence, which is a sort of ballady type track, but what a fantastic solo Chapman plays on that. Oh, incredible. Absolutely brilliant. And then we get to 1982 and Mechanix. And I guess that's a Hypnosis sleeve. This was the last album with Pete Way. Pete called it a day after this. I think he said he thought they were getting too soft, too many ballads. But again, there's some brilliant tunes on this and some fantastic guitar riffs. Side 1, The Writer, love that. Love that riff on that. Something Else, old Eddie Cochran song. Back Into My Life, You'll Get Love, Doing It All For You, We Belong to the Night, Let It Rain, Terry, which is a sort of ballady one as well, Feel It, and Dreamin'. Now the guitar riff on Dreamin', brilliant. This album was a huge influence on my first band. We used to play We Belong to the Night and Let It Rain. That was like sometimes our first 2 songs. People must have been thinking we were a UFO tribute band. We were obviously at the cutting edge of music, being in a tribute band 2 decades before it was fashionable. And then we get to 1983. This was the last album of the original lineups, Making Contact. Now I've seen this get bad reviews, but I like this album as well. I like all the Paul Chapman era albums. Blinded by a Lie. If you watch my Arizona video, I ripped that riff off. I don't know if I did it subconsciously or just did it because it was great. Don't know. There's some really good tunes on this. I remember reading that Phil Maw was really into Bruce Springsteen. I think he'd always been into Bruce Springsteen. Certainly some of the tunes on this, lyrically, very sort of Springsteen-ish. But it's a good album. Some really good tunes on it. Now interestingly, on the tour for this album, Pete Way was gone, and I remember reading in Kerrang that Billy Sheehan from Tallis was going to be playing bass with UFO. And Tallis, brilliant band. Sink your teeth into that, as they say. So we thought we'd be seeing Billy Sheehan playing bass. They played the Playhouse in Edinburgh in March on that tour, on the 1983 tour, and we thought, oh brilliant, Billy Sheehan. But as it turned out, he flew home after the European gigs, and the very last tour they did was the UK dates, and it was Paul Gray from The Damned who played bass when we saw them. It was great though, really good. I've got quite a few bootlegs from that tour as well. So yeah, I like that era of UFO. It gets some bad press, but there's some great tunes and they were still fantastic live. Although I do remember reading a review from Athens at the end of the European tour, and it was very, very bad review. I think Phil collapsed and was incoherently drunk, and it was just rubbish. They got a terrible, terrible review. But at the Playhouse, they were great, absolutely fantastic. So that was the last tour they would do with Paul Chapman, and then they took a break for a couple of years and Phil reformed the band with Atomic Tommy M. But at the end of the UK tour, they recorded a gig at the Hammersmith Odeon, and that was released as Headstone, side 4 of Headstone. This is an interesting album. It's a compilation of, it's like a UFO family tree, and what they've done is they've put like a song from all the sort of bands, from Lone Star, Scorpions, Wild Horses, Michael Schenker group. It's a decent compilation, and the live side's really good as well. I think they ended up releasing the whole of the gig. This was just part of the gig that was on this album, so yeah, it was great. So that's part 1 of my Paul Chapman story. I'm not his biographer by any means, but I'm just a huge fan, and I've got a lot of bootlegs and stuff like that, and tour programs and things. So I thought we'd just make a few episodes about one of my favourite guitar players and one of my favourite bands. Now, I never saw Schenker with UFO until the 1990s again. I think he rejoined, and I've saw him a couple of times. But I guess I was lucky in that in the early 80s, the Michael Schenker group were touring the UK, So I saw MSG 3 times in the early 80s, and also saw UFO as well around about the same time. So I technically did see Schenker and UFO, just not on the same stage at the same time. But you can't have everything. So thank you for watching. Thank you for your patience, and if you're a big Paul Chapman fan, I'm going to do a few of these. I think what I'll do is I'll go through each of the albums that he recorded with the band and talk a bit about each album, and maybe do some guitar riffs as well, because I love the riffs on these albums. Fantastic stuff. So cheers for now, folks.